I rise for point of personal privilege.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I know it's been a long day, and I'm not going to ask for equal time, but I did want to respond to the gentleman from Caroline's discussion this morning about the importance of the rules. Because I also, although I haven't been here nearly as long, have sort of made myself a student of the rules, and I take them very seriously. I do understand the role that they play in protecting the minority and the rights of the minority. But I want to talk a little bit about a particular rule which I think is meant to protect the rights of the majority. And that may seem like a weird thing for me to be advocating for. But Article 4, Section 11 of the Constitution, actually, in our state constitution, sets out a specific rule and sets out the vote required for that rule so that we as a body can't change it through a rules change or through a statutory change. And it's the rule for discharge of a bill. And I would submit that that's been in the Constitution since 1902 because the folks that wrote that understood that it was important sometimes that the will of the body not be overcome by the will of a small clique of folks that control the agenda and control what comes to the floor. And so when you have a really popular measure, there needs to be an outlet. There needs to be a way for those measures to be brought to the floor. And the way we do that is through a discharge motion. Again, that's a protected motion. It's in the Constitution. And the vote for it is a majority of members participating in the vote, not less than 4/5 of the members of the body. So we've set it up so you can't create a supermajority to require that. Okay, and that's not an accident. So I want to tell you a little bit about how we got to the rules changes that we got to today. But as far as the gentleman's analogy about playing with his older brothers, let me tell you a little bit about what it feels like to be in the minority in this body from 2014 till now. It feels like you're playing a game where the other team has more players and the referee and the commissioner on their side, right? And that's how the rules work. And that's certainly not a fair fight. It's not a fair game, but we look for opportunities within the rules to make our voices heard, to make sure the minority does get heard, and when there's an opportunity to get votes on things. So people have asked me here, well, Marcus, you love Budget Day, don't you? What is it you get so excited about Budget Day? Well, I like Budget Day because we actually get to do floor amendments. We get to bring things to the floor. We actually get to do votes, get things up on the board. So as we're looking at the Equal Rights Amendment, a number of the advocates came to me as our side's parliamentarian and said, I don't understand what's happening here. We counted up the co-patrons of the two bills. We counted 49, we counted 3 Republicans on the other bill. We have 51 or 52 members that have signed up to co-patron the Equal Rights Amendment. How come we can't get a vote on it? So let's look at the rules. There's a discharge. We could try a discharge motion. And we looked at the rules, and I agree with the gentleman. The words matter. And the rules for discharge is specifically about a bill. And the issue of how you discharge a resolution wasn't clear. Rule 39 does talk about how you can bypass a committee from the beginning with a vote of 2/3. Wasn't clear to me that was exactly on point. I looked back at the rules historically to see how it's been handled in the past. I'll tell you, I found in 1871 to about 1920, we had a rule, Rule 74, that said for all purposes, a House joint resolution that's other than a procedural resolution will be treated exactly the same way as a bill. Okay, I think that what happened was the rules got redrafted, and we just lifted the language right out of the Constitution into Rule 81, and it said bill, but it never said resolution. I think that the rules, frankly, are silent about that. But again, we don't have the referee. We don't have the commissioner. I knew how that ruling might go. And so we do have Rule 81, which says that we'll adopt rules every 2 years, as was discussed this morning. It also says that we can change the rules with a vote. And we actually discussed how we changed the rules 2 years ago. We adopted them in 2018. We changed that from a majority of the members to a majority of the members elected, right? With a very conscious decision, knowing that rules changes mid-session might be required. But when we got to 4951, I think there was some concern that we have a couple people go to the bathroom or be out sick, and we might try and change the rules. And so we would move that to a majority of the members elected. So the idea that we wouldn't or couldn't change the rules midstream, that it's somehow unprecedented or uncontemplated, just isn't true. We thought about it when we adopted these 2018 rules. And the rules themselves provide an outlet for when we find something mid-session, a situation we hadn't thought of, to change them. And we did it last year, as the gentleman remembered. We got to the new morning hour. We had the first and the second. We realized there was no place for people to make delegate announcements, right? So we left a word out. We left a phrase out. So we went through this process. We read the rule 5 times, and we added the words that were missing. So, Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I don't think that there's anything at all wrong with the process that's been adopted. I will say, finally, that the House Resolution 274, there's 2 places, really two two times that we can make sure something gets to the floor is on budget day when we have our budget process, and it's through these rules changes. Because these do not go to committee. There's a very specific process. Requires it's sort of awkward for the clerk to have to read these things in full 5 times, and then we all get to vote on them. And so House Resolution 274, should that be the only chance we get, was designed to make sure that everybody understood when you go back to your districts exactly what it is you're voting on, and that your vote for House Resolution 274 is a vote for the ERA, a vote against it is a vote against the ERA. If you don't like that one, we've got House Resolution 280, which I put in, which I think just fixes the problem. It would allow us to do a discharge motion. We could actually discharge the Equal Rights Amendment. That's how we got there. I don't think there's anything untoward about it. I think the rules provide for this, and I hope that there'll be the will of the folks tomorrow when you have the opportunity to vote on these rules changes to vote in the affirmative. And let's get this to the floor, and let's let the people's business be done here on the House floor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.